Scrum development has had at least one conversation about the use and relevance of the Fibonacci sequence. So let's talk about it and why it's used in Scrum. I'm Kelly Newman, your product innovation coach. Let's start with a bit of history. The Fibonacci sequence wasn't created by Agile, and it wasn't chosen by the Scrum creators simply to annoy and frustrate software development teams. Although, let's be honest, it does kind of feel that way sometimes. The Fibonacci sequence actually dates back to around 200 BC, but it wasn't called the Fibonacci sequence until around 1280. So, yeah, it's old. It's really old. But what is the Fibonacci sequence and how does it relate to software development? It represents a sequence of numbers that is the addition of the prior two numbers in the result set, as I've shown here. In theory, it can go up infinitely, but in Agile, I found that most organizations focus on 0 through 144, which smaller features or stories really look at 1 through 8 or 13. Mathematicians and the scientific community have used the Fibonacci sequence for multiple reasons, but I'm not either of those things, so I can't speak on that. But what I can speak on is how is it used within the software development industries. And it really is very simple. The Fibonacci sequence tells us that the larger an item is, the harder it is to estimate with accuracy. Let's use road trips as an example. For my US viewers, let's say that you are planning a cross-country trip in about a month. You are going to leave from Atlanta, Georgia and arrive in Los Angeles, California. So you're going total cross-country. And you look at the distance, you consider how many stops you're gonna have to make along the way for food, to sleep, and you estimate that you will arrive at your destination at your friend's house at 8 p.m. on the third day of your trip. So after you come up with your estimations, you pick up the phone or send a text message to your friends and say, hey, I expect to be at your place at 8 p.m. on this day, right? A month goes by, you get in your car, and it turns out you don't actually get there until 9 p.m. Well, no one is saying to you, oh my gosh, you're an hour late. Probably quite opposite. Like, wow, your estimate was pretty accurate in your time driving all the way across country on such a large trip and only being about an hour off. That's a pretty good estimation. Now let's look at a different scenario. Let's say you're in your own hometown and you're making plans to go to dinner with some friends later that day. And you all agree to meet at the restaurant at 8 p.m. But you don't arrive until 9 p.m. What is the reaction you're going to get from your friends? Is it going to be similar to the road trip example? No, it probably isn't. Your friends are not going to be happy. They're not going to be okay with you being an hour late to that dinner. And most likely they wouldn't have waited for you. They'd have eaten dinner and you've missed out on that dinner. So what's the difference between these two scenarios? It really comes down to two things: size and time. So in the first road trip scenario, the size in which you had to travel, right, the amount of miles was a lot larger than in the dinner example. As things grow in size, they become more difficult to estimate with accuracy. The second thing is time. As you get farther and farther away from the start or finish of something, your ability to estimate with accuracy decreases as well. So in the first example, road trip example, the individual planned a month in advance. He would have, or she would have probably been a lot more accurate in their estimate as they started their trip. In the middle of the trip, got even more accurate and got even more accurate at the end of the trip. Similar to the dinner scenario, right? Making plans earlier in the day, maybe a little less accurate than opening up your GPS a few minutes before you would need to leave to see what time you will get there. So the two different scenarios have a difference in size and time that impact their ability for accuracy. Fibonacci addresses the first point in these scenarios, which is size. So the larger the work effort is, the harder it is to estimate with accuracy. So a 1 point item, you'll be able to estimate completion with accuracy. You feel confident that you know how long it will take to complete that work item. However, you may have some hesitation when things get to be about a size 8, right? So around a size 8, is it the same as 7 ones? Is it the same as 10 ones? You're not sure, but you know it's about in that range. That's an 8. But maybe a 21, that's too big. It's too big to even really estimate the size, because now you're looking at things between like a 15 ones, is it 25 ones? I don't know, that's too big. When using Fibonacci, you're getting a mathematical representation of size and estimation accuracy. So again, just like those scenarios, your friends aren't going to care if you're an hour late on a long road trip estimate, but they are going to care if you're an hour late on a dinner reservation made that day. And your leadership, hopefully, has the same expectations. Don't expect, if you're a leader, to have a high expectation of accuracy on a large piece of work. But it is perfectly reasonable to have a high expectation of accuracy on a very, very small piece of work that is going to be completed in the near future. If you liked this video, or maybe even if you didn't, you're going to love my next video where I continue to discuss Fibonacci within the context of actual real-life story pointing and my controversial take that story points are an estimation of time. Don't miss out. Subscribe to my channel to get notifications on when I upload that video and any new videos moving forward.